How about now? How about now? Let's check that. Let's see here. Let me see. Bear with me, guys. Let me know if it sounds any better now this time. Still the same. Media source. Let me check this out. Let me see. Where's my feedback mic? I don't have a feedback mic. I do have a feedback mic. Oh, still better. Check it out. That's good. It's good. All right. Feedback sounds good. Sorry about that, guys. All right. Looks like we got the audio fixed. So, yeah, we had some issues earlier. Grant and I were trying to work it out, figure out some ways to clean up the audio sync between the mouth movements and the audio not seeming like a 1997 or 1977 dubbed over kung fu flick. So we made some changes to the audio earlier today. I didn't realize they were messing up. So we're all good now. So how's everybody doing here? It's a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. We're going to go into the final chapter of closing out a foreclosure. We're going to be discussing conversations with the bank, conversations with the trustees, figuring out how to keep everybody informed, how to deal with the sellers, how to deal with your title companies, and some of the final steps to getting this foreclosure actually stopped. So I hope everybody that's tuning in is going to enjoy this. And I'll just go ahead and I guess start jumping in on it. I guess to recap for anybody that is tuning in right now and they're curious where parts 1, 2, 3 are, go to YouTube and search for Propelio foreclosure, and you should be able to find parts 1, 2, 3. During those, we talk about the general process of a foreclosure, both in judicial and non-judicial states, the differences in security instruments between mortgages and deeds of trust, the types of properties that you're looking for, the type of filings that you're looking to market to, how to market to them, how to handle the phone calls, how to handle the appointments, the paperwork you need at the appointments. All of that type of stuff is covered in parts 1, 2, and 3 of this pre-foreclosure training series. But in this final one, we're going to be talking about the actual conversations with the bank, the conversations with the seller, and all of that other fun stuff. So this is live as of Wednesday, 8:35 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you are watching this in the future, you missed out. But for everybody that is watching right now, I will be answering your questions as we go through this live. Let me go double check on YouTube before I get started on this. Wow, YouTube is blowing up with these wonderful comments. All right, good to go, good to go, good to go. I now know how to, man, I just figured out the key to getting comments on my posts. All I have to do is have some horrible audio and y'all will blow my post up. So I should just start figuring out how to make my audio go bad on command. So, all right, let's have some fun here. So I'm just going to dig into this. Let me make sure that I got my keys set correct. Are all the keys set good? Yep, all right, keys are set good. So we're going to just dig in, stopping the foreclosure. At the end of Series 3, we got the property under contract. And now that we've got the property under contract, what do we do next? Hey, Jocelyn, how are you doing tonight? All right, so call the bank daily. This is step one. Step one, like I'm going to try my best to call the bank while I'm on the appointment with the seller. I covered that in part 3. I'm going to recap that here in part 4. I'm sitting down with the seller 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. I am going, terrible, Jocelyn. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that in the middle of a live feed. Don't tell me you're feeling terrible. Send me a private message, girl. Let me know what's going on. But while I'm at the appointment and I've got the property under contract, I'm going to have the seller call the bank right there with me. Why am I going to do that? Let me explain the background to why I want this to happen. The bank is going to need what's called a third-party authorization on file in order for you to talk to the bank. Okay, now if the third-party authorization is not on file, the bank will not talk to you. Well, to get the third-party authorization on file, you're going to have to send the file over and get it imaged into the bank system. More often than not, they're going to request that third-party authorization be faxed to them. The way this works is I send them the third-party authorization. It sits at the fax machine for a day. Somebody finally comes over at the end of the day and picks it up. They take it over their desk. It sits at their desk for a day or two, and then they finally scan it in, and it sits there in their scanned files folder, and they eventually end up uploading it into the bank system. This typically takes about 5 business days from the point you send over the fax. It gets cleared through their legal department, it goes into their system, and it's confirmed that you can converse with the bank. That is 5 business days that you do not have to waste. That is 5 business days of being delayed to get your payoffs done, to get your reinstatements done, to request your forbearance agreements. You do not have 5 days to wait. So what are we going to do? We will sit there at the house with the seller and have the seller call the bank right then and there and request the bank put you, any associates that you have with your business by name, not just like, hey, all of my friends, every single name of every single person that you have at your company that will be working with the bank. You're going to have the bank put each and every one of you on as individuals as a temporary authorized user for communication with the bank. And the seller can do this while they're on the phone with you. And what that's going to do is give you immediate access to talking to the bank. There's no way I can express how important that is to make sure you get that piece done. So write that down, underline it, highlight it, put a special note on the side. While you are at the property getting all of your paperwork signed, call the bank and get them to add you on as a temporary authorized user. Still get your third-party authorization signed, still go back and send them in to get imaged, but make sure that you get that phone call done. Now, to expedite the process, while you are on the phone there with the seller and the bank, go ahead and ask the bank right then and there for a payoff statement and a reinstatement price. What's the reinstatement price? What's the payoff? Get all those types of things figured out. And then last but not least, confirm the foreclosure date. Make sure that you are very much aware of what the confirmed foreclosure date is for that property. So going back over here to the slides, let's take a look at this. Call the bank daily. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to submit my third-party authorizations. I'm going to call the bank. I'm going to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Banker, what is a good fax number for me to send my third-party authorization to? Now, I'm going to ask that very clearly. Make sure you ask this. What is a good number for me to send my third-party authorization to? How do I send my third-party authorization? Do you want me to email it to you? That's not very often the case, at least in my experience. It's almost always a fax. Do you want me to fax it to you? How do you want this third-party authorization? Once you receive that, go ahead and send your third-party authorization off. But let me give you a very solid tip. You're going to call this bank every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. What you're going to need to do is every time you call the bank, confirm the way they want the third-party authorization sent. And that might sound ridiculous. And I'm sitting here right now in my own head saying, that sounds ridiculous. I've already confirmed it the day before. Why am I going to confirm it again? I've had enough experience dealing with pre-foreclosures and dealing with banks to find out that I can get the same answer 4 times. And then when I finally throw a big enough fit, because they don't have my third-party authorization imaged into the system yet, that they had been giving me the wrong phone number the whole time. Always, always, always ask for a confirmed third-party authorization delivery point, whether that be a phone number or an email. Always do that. What else am I going to do while I'm on the phone every single time? I'm going to confirm whether they have or have not received my third-party authorization. So I send it on day 1. 2 hours later, I'm calling to make sure they got it. 3 hours later, I'm calling to make sure they got it. The next day, I'm calling to make sure I got it. There is no way I can express without just sounding redundant. You have to follow up like your life depends on it when you're dealing with pre-foreclosures, not only for your own sake, because your payday depends on this. Your sellers are depending upon you and your team to get this deal closed, and a big portion of that is consistent, relentless follow-up. And when I say relentless, you need to be on top of it daily. Do not let these files slide to the side. You are on a time frame. This property will be sold at auction. You do not allow that to happen. And the things that I'm giving to you today are the things that I've learned through doing this for close to 12 years. So I'm going to bounce back over there real quick. So we've talked about the third-party authorization. What else are we going to look at? I'm going to submit to the bank. I'm going to confirm the third-party authorization has been imaged each time you call. Confirm the payoff and that reinstatements has been ordered. Once again, I am going to ask this every single time, and I know it sounds redundant. I know it sounds annoying, but I cannot express to you the number of times I have had banks misrepresent something to me just to find out at a future time that the information that I was depending upon was wrong. Do not fall victim to that yourselves. Lean on my experience doing this and understand that while it just seems, well, how would I say that? It seems pointless to do this. All I can tell you right now is that there is absolutely nothing at all more important than what I'm giving to you right now. All right, so moving on. Confirm the sale date. I do this every single time. Nothing more exciting for me personally than whenever I call up the bank and I know, let's just say it's going to auction on Tuesday, the first Tuesday of August. I've known this every single time I've called in, and I've been calling in for 2 weeks straight. Well, you know what's really, really exciting is when you call in for 2 weeks straight, and on that 14th day you call up the bank and they tell you it's been postponed. Are they just going to call you up and be like, hey, the foreclosure was postponed? No, they're not going to just call you up and just, hey, guess what? We postponed your foreclosure. I'm glad that you're working this file. We have hundreds of other files we're working, but we took the time out of our day to update you. It doesn't work that way. You're going to need to call. And I ask every single time, what is the scheduled foreclosure date? And I love the great news of just hearing the bank say, oh, it's been postponed to the next month. Boom, that gives me the relief. That gives the seller the relief to getting this file closed timely. So do not forget to ask every single time you call in, what is your foreclosure? What is the foreclosure date? Okay, on to the next one. Request a forbearance. Request a forbearance. What is a forbearance? Does anybody in here remember what a forbearance is from the last time that we were talking here? I think that was probably on episode number 2. I believe episode number 2 of this 4-part foreclosure series covered 12 different ways of stopping a foreclosure. A forbearance, for those of you that do not know what a forbearance is, it's essentially an agreement that the bank has made with you to postpone the foreclosure of a property for any given reason. You can negotiate whatever that is. You say, you know what, give me 30 days. I've got a purchase agreement on this property that's scheduled to close. We're in the process of clearing title. Please extend the foreclosure date. Give us the time we need to get this property purchased. I have had significant luck with getting banks to stop a foreclosure with a confirmed purchase agreement submitted to title between myself and the title company hitting the bank. I have had very good luck with a forbearance agreement. Some people call it a stay of foreclosure, but with all of that to be said, I've had really solid luck communicating with the banks and saying, hey, can I get a forbearance agreement put together? Now let me stop and then let me pause on that for just a minute. Forbearance agreement, stay of foreclosure. You might just want to say, hey, can I get this foreclosure postponed? You've got it scheduled for August 2nd. Would you mind postponing it until September? That's all I'm asking for you. I've got a purchase agreement. I've sent that in to get imaged into your system. With it being sent in to be imaged into your system, you can see that we have a legitimate purchase and sales agreement on file. I'll have my escrow officer at the title company call you and confirm confirm this. But would you give me an extra 30 days? All right. What happens when they say no? Nope, we're scheduled for August 2nd. There's absolutely no way we're going to postpone this foreclosure. That's a rough time, okay? When you call these banks, you're likely going to be hitting a call center, and you're going to get on the phone with somebody that's likely going to be in the loss mitigation department. That loss mitigator has some kind of standard box that they work within, and anything outside of that box is going to get a canned answer of no. If you have a loss mitigator or an operator basically telling you, no, there's no chance that we're going to postpone the foreclosure, escalate the phone call. Do not be scared to escalate the phone call, and do not be scared to escalate the phone call every single time you get on the phone with the bank. Like if you get on the phone, you're talking to a loss mitigator, and they're telling you an answer that you don't like, escalate the phone call to their supervisor. You don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to get nasty, and I can promise you right now, if you're getting rude and nasty with the bank, it's not going to help you out. Now, that's not the same as being stern. You know, being stern in your position and not accepting no for an answer is acceptable, but being rude and being nasty with the bank is not going to help your situation out. So one of the things I'll do, if I'm on the phone with a loss mitigator and they are refusing to give me a postpone of the foreclosure, I will request the file and the phone call to be escalated to a supervisor. That might take 45 minutes. That might take 20 minutes. That might take an hour. The loss mitigator might get pissy with you about it. They might say, you know what, they're busy right now. I can take care of this. I have had some that do just naturally get a little upset that you're asking to talk to their supervisor. But don't let that discourage you. Once you've got their supervisor on the phone, hit them with the exact same stuff. All right, I've got a purchase and sales agreement executed with the seller of this property. I have this file submitted to the title company. The title company is working on clearing title. We have the ability to get this property closed, but right now there's only 6 days between now and the foreclosure. Would you mind postponing it? It's not uncommon that they'll tell me yes. But it's also not uncommon that they'll tell me no, even after I've escalated it. So what I'll need to do is press it a little bit harder from there and say, hey, you know what? Right now, you do not know the condition of the property. Do you have a BPO on file? Now, what is a BPO? It's called a broker's price opinion. What is a broker's price opinion? A broker's price opinion is they call up a real estate agent in their local market and they say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Real Estate Agent, would you mind giving me an estimated value of what that property is currently worth? Okay, now there are two different types of what's called BPOs, broker's price opinions. They're going to have what's called an internal BPO. Write this down. This is important. They're going to have an internal BPO and they're going to have an external BPO. What is the difference between an internal and external BPO? All right, external BPO means that the real estate agent drove by the exterior of the home, took a picture, and based the value of the property on the exterior condition of the home. Alternatively, the banks can have done what's called as an interior BPO, and it's exactly what it sounds like. The bank has actually had an agent go into the home and verify the condition of the home from the inside and took pictures. Now, on pre-foreclosures, I have found it to be extremely rare that the bank actually has an internal BPO. It is almost always an external BPO. So here's how my conversation is going to go when I escalate this phone call to a supervisor. I'm going to ask this supervisor, all right, will you postpone this? I've got a purchase agreement with this property. I've got it submitted to title. We're trying to clear title issues. Will you give me enough time to get this closed? No, you don't want to give me the time. You're going to take it to auction no matter what. That's not good. May I ask you a question? Do you have a BPO on file? Okay, and they're going to say yes or no. You know, I don't really care what they say. I just want to know, do they have a BPO on file? Write this down. I cannot express to you how bad I want you to write this down because I am throwing some solid, absolute fire at you. And for those of you that do not realize the amount of information I'm dropping on y'all in this 4-part series, I've probably invested close to $15,000 into my foreclosure training experience, plus 12 years in the business of doing it. I am opening up the books to you. I'm not holding anything back. I am giving you everything that I can possibly give you. So I want you to write this down. I am going to ask, do you have an internal or an external BPO? That's the next one I'm going to ask. I'm going to say, hey, do you have a BPO on file? Yes, no. All right. Is it an internal or an external BPO? Almost always I'm going to get an external BPO. Okay. If they're going to give me an external BPO, let me explain how I'm going to follow this conversation from here. All right, Mr. or Mrs. Banker, so you've got an internal BPO. What's the value of that BPO? Technically, they're not typically gonna share that information with you. It's not very often that a bank is gonna tell you what their internal BPO comes back at, but I'm gonna ask it every single time. Every time I get on the phone call with an operator, a loss mitigator, a manager, I'm going to ask that question every single time. What is the value of your internal BPO? All right. Following up from there, I'm going to say, okay, so you've got an internal BPO done on that. All right, you don't want to disclose to me what it came back as, but what I could do is I can share the pictures of the inside of that property with you. And what I can guarantee you right now is that the principal balance of your loan is not going to be met with the condition of this property. If you take this property to auction, you will not receive all of your funds back, leaving you deficient on your loan balance. Do you really want to risk? Do you really want to risk taking this property to auction and run the risk of it not selling for the full principal value of your loan and then leave yourself in a position where you're going to have to try and recoup that, either from an REO standpoint, hold that on your books as a non-performing asset. And I'm going to use these words. These are key words that I'm using. Non-performing asset is a very important word. Do you really want to hold this property on your books as a non-performing asset, run the risk, have to go through property preservation, go through all of that, or would you rather just give me the opportunity to get this property closed? I've got the purchase price right here. The purchase price that I have it contracted for is just barely sufficient enough to clear your principal balance, but it will clear your principal balance. Give me the opportunity to get this closed and save yourself from putting another non-performing asset on your books when you have the opportunity and the chance right now to get this property sold without having to do any risks at the auction. All right. This will oftentimes get a manager on board to play with me. Okay. All I'm asking for is 30 days. Do remember this. It means nothing unless you get it in writing. Make sure you get it in writing. Okay. So let's say I am able to get that 30 days out of the manager. What happens if they refuse still? Nope, we're not going to do it. 6 days to auction. I can't get it stopped. All right. I will therefore escalate the call yet again. I will try to go over that manager's head. I will try to go 3, 4, 5 layers up the ladder. And what that means is you might be spending 6 hours on that phone call. You do not get paid. Your foreclosure does not get stopped, and your duty, your word to that seller that you were going to do everything you could to get this foreclosure stopped and that property purchased has not been fulfilled. That might be a 6, 7, 8 hour phone call the first time in. All right, so you just keep escalating and escalating and escalating up the ladder. Well, what happens when you get 4 or 5 layers deep and you're still hearing no? My last ditch effort, and I'm not going to say it's a bluff, but I will say that I'm throwing it out there as an attempt to catch their attention. I will say something along the lines of, what happens if this homeowner decides to file bankruptcy? What will that do to your system? I already know this is me cutting out of it. I already know what's going to happen if this homeowner files bankruptcy. Does anybody in here know what's going to happen if the homeowner files bankruptcy? What's going to happen is the foreclosure will be immediately stopped. The bank is now going to have to go through a lot of process and procedure internally to maintain the requirements of servicing a loan that is in bankruptcy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the phone with a manager that's high enough up to understand the ramifications of the seller filing a bankruptcy. I'm going to speak with that person. I'm going to say, hey, I don't necessarily know if the seller is or is not planning on filing bankruptcy, but I imagine with the equity that they have in this property, if they are forced to decide between losing all of their potential equity at the auction or potentially filing a bankruptcy to stop it so that they can secure it and give themselves the time they need to get this property sold, I have a feeling the seller is likely going to file bankruptcy. Would you like to take this loan, this paperwork, would you like to see this go into bankruptcy and have to deal with all the extra hassle of servicing this loan that's in bankruptcy? And I can't promise you that once the homeowner files bankruptcy and then realizes that the foreclosure is going to be postponed for another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, that they just decide not even to go ahead and sell the house and just live there for another 7, 8, 9 months and milk it and not make any more payments. I can't promise you what the seller's intent is on this, but what I can say is that the seller has equity. The seller's intending on capturing that equity. We have a purchase and sales agreement in place. Instead of taking this property back on your books as a non-performing asset, instead of risking the seller deciding to file bankruptcy to protect their equity, instead of going through all of that, if you would just extend the foreclosure 30 more days, what I can promise you is this purchase and sales agreement will be closed. We already have it in title. Give me 30 more days. Now, I cannot give you exact quotes. I cannot give you exact statistics, but I have almost never had a bank refuse to extend my foreclosure. Almost never. In a very, very, very small handful of circumstances have they refused, and I have taken alternate measures to get the deal closed. But that has almost always worked for me. I cannot say much beyond that, but for me, my experience, never had much of an issue beyond that. But it does take a lot of effort. It's not just a call them up 1 or 2 times and ask and then get told no. I'm calling up. All right. Operator number 1, operator number 2, manager number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is a never ending, nonstop process of continuous phone calls. So let's jump back over to the slides. If I've got any questions on that, feel free to hit me up. If y'all are watching right now, we are live as of 8:57 p.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesday. But let me come back over here to see if I got anything coming in on Facebook. We're still good over here on Facebook. Let me jump over to YouTube, make sure I don't have any comments over there before I go on to the next slide. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the next slide. So pump that in. Cut. I think I got that right. Are we good? Wrong button. There we go. All right. Request the forbearance. Let me go back on that. I may or may not send over my purchase agreement. It is not uncommon for me to do so, though. Depending upon how much equity's on the property, how much the seller is potentially going to walk away with, might kind of change how I send this off to the bank. Sometimes I do send the contract. Sometimes I don't send the contract. Sometimes I just tell them, hey, I am barely covering the principal balance on this property. Sometimes that will work in my favor. Other times, if there's a considerable amount of equity on the property, the banks aren't that concerned about taking it to auction because they have a fairly strong confidence that their equity in the note will be covered at the sale at the auction. So I may or may not necessarily submit the contract to the bank. But this is day number 1, and it does not stop. This is day number 1, and it does not stop. Hey, Chris Monroe, how are you doing today? Hey, Selena, thanks for the shout-outs. Jason, Joshua, Joseph, all of y'all, thank you. HMHY Investments, all of y'all. Deborah, thank you. Coming back over here, though. All right, calling the bank daily. Day 1, this is exactly what happens. What about day 2? Day 2, title company. Not day 2, excuse me, day 1. Day 1, I'm going to call up my title company. I'm going to submit a rush order to the title company. What do I mean by a rush order? Whenever I say I'm going to submit a rush order to the title company, if I just send over a file to the title company and the title company is not aware that this is a pre-foreclosure, they might just treat it like any other file. They're going to go ahead and submit their abstract of title whenever they get around to it. They're not going to really push to get it closed because the contract shows a close in 2 weeks, whatever it might be. When you call up your title company and you submit this contract, make sure that you get on the phone with your escrow officer and say, hey, this property is a pre-foreclosure. I need to run an abstract of title ASAP. I need to find out any and all potential claims to title, any encumbrances of title. I need to see your title commitment. I need to see what Schedule C looks like. If you don't understand some of these things I'm talking about, we do have a full title section in the Propelio Academy for free. Go out and check it out, propelio.com/academy. Check that out. But over here, coming back over here, I want to submit a rush order. I want the title company to understand this is a pre-foreclosure property. With that to be said, I do not just work with any whatsoever title company. This title company is going to be vetted by me big time before I start working with them. I want to make sure that they have the experience to handle pre-foreclosures. I want to make sure that they have the capacity to handle my pre-foreclosures, and I want to make sure that they understand investor files and know what my files are going to require and what I as a real estate investor am going to require of them. So through submitting the rush order, I'm going to disclose to them it is a pre-foreclosure. You need to make sure that the title company is very much aware that this is a pre-foreclosure. They should treat this file a little differently with it being a pre-foreclosure, especially with a known foreclosure date. And with that to be said, you need to let the title company know what is the auction date. Okay, hey, I've got this file. I just send it over to you. I need a rush order placed on it. I want to see my title commitment ASAP, but the auction date is 14 days from now. You've got 14 days to get this clear. So as soon as you get that title commitment back, send that over to me so I can help you get any encumbrances of title removed so we can get this deal closed. Now, do understand that it is not the title company's problem when they pull title and find a bunch of issues. Whose problem is that? That is your problem. Your problem. Why? Because if this title fails to close, if this property fails to close, who does not get paid? You. You don't get paid. You have to get this file closed to get it paid. And while it might be nice to be able to sit on your hands and say, oh, I submitted it to the title, they're going to take care of it. No. That is the fastest way to find out that you are about to lose your invested capital, you're about to lose your contract, and you're going to fail to close the deal. You must pay very close attention to what's going on at title and assist the title company in resolving any issues they have with the title. Okay, let me move forward and look at that. Advise of my exit strategy up front. What do I mean? Well, whenever I submit a title to contract, I have several different ways I can close this. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Title Company, I'm planning on selling this property with an assignment of contract. That's one way I can exit this deal. Or, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Title Company, I plan on exiting this deal through a double close. This gives the title company the ability to prepare the file in such a way that it is easy for them to close. I could go in there and say, hey, I'm purchasing this thing cash. All right, that's another exit strategy for the file. I can go in there and say, hey, I'm purchasing it with a hard money loan. Hey, I'm taking this property over subject to. No matter what your strategy is, make sure you disclose it to your title company right then and there so they are working the deal right from the beginning, and you're not sitting there 2 days before closing and being like, hey, I'm planning on assigning this, and then everybody's scrambling to get the file cleaned up for your assignment. Or, hey, I'm closing it sub 2. Oh, well, I wasn't completely unaware that you were closing it sub 2. Let me redo everything I just did the last 14 days. Don't be that person. Make sure that you are taking care of what's going on and get that deal closed the way it's supposed to be closed. Few things, quick tips. Okay, it's not uncommon for me to contract properties that are in some form of heirship. The owner has passed away, the title has not been transferred, the heirs to the property have not been making payments to the house, therefore the property is now going to foreclosure. The title is still in the deceased homeowner's name, but the heirs are trying to get it sold. If that is the case, you must be very proactive up front with getting all of that type of paperwork done. If you have not been watching Propelio TV for the past 3 or 4 weeks, we have a show weekly on Thursdays called the REI Hustle with HBHS. They've been talking a lot about curative title work with decedents, with descendants, with heirs, using skip tracing features, using different key sources to find the heirs to a property to get title transferred. I suggest anybody working pre-foreclosures that you keep on file with you in your car at all times some documents such as affidavits of heirship questionnaires. Some states call them affidavits of successorship questionnaires. But you're going to need to find out from your title company what type of questionnaires they want, because more often than not, a title company can draft those documents for you. What is an affidavit of heirship? It is essentially a document, an affidavit, a sworn affidavit saying, I know the homeowners that are dead, I know who the heirs to the property are, and based upon intestate successorship in this state, the heirs are as follows. All right, now that might sound a little confusing to anybody that's watching that's never heard of intestate successorship. Go out and Google intestate, intestate, intestate successorship. Don't even expect me to spell the second one. I'm not that well educated. And then your state. And then talk to your title company and figure out what type of questionnaires they want. I keep those questionnaires on file with me in my car at any point in time, because if I do contract a pre-foreclosure and I find out that it is in an intestate successorship, I want that paperwork filled out ASAP so that I can start working on transferring title in the limited amount of time that I have ASAP. Okay, if you want a probate class, I will be more than glad to teach a heirship class. Essentially, how do I handle properties that are owned by a deceased homeowner and have not transferred title? So if you'd like to learn more about affidavits of heirship, if you'd like to learn more about probate, if you'd like to learn more about amendment of title, I can't ever say that. If you want to learn more about small title claims, small estate claims, if you want to learn more about that type of stuff, I can do a class on that. If you want that class, give me some thumbs up, give me some likes, give me some fire, give me some hearts, give me some comments. And if I see enough of those come in, next week I'll do a class on something that deals with intestate successorship or even testate successorship. Both of those will be covered in that class. So if you'd like that class, let me know. Let me see some likes, let me see some comments, and I'll go forward with that. But I want the title company on board with what's going on, and as soon as I get Schedule C back, I need to be on top of it. So this is day one. Day one, I'm at the homeowner's house. I've contracted the property. I've now called the bank. I've now called and I've talked to the loss mitigators. I've talked to the loss mitigators' bosses, the boss's boss, and the boss's boss's boss. I talked to all of them. Okay? So going forward from there, I'm going to advise them of my exit strategy. Wrong mouse. And then I'm going to submit the following paperwork. My purchase contract. I'm going to submit this is all to my title company. I'm going to submit the purchase contract, the third-party authorization. Wrong button. There we go. Purchase contract, third-party authorization, addendums, any addendums I have to my paperwork, affidavits of heirship questionnaire, if I need it, death certificates if I need it. And what do I mean by set death certificates? If I know that the chain of title is broken and there's a deceased homeowner, I'm gonna get that death certificate right there on the appointment if I can. If I'm talking to an heir to the property, I'd be like, hey, do you happen to have an extra death certificate? I hate to have to ask that, but I know the title company's gonna require it. Can I get a copy of the death certificate? The more prepared you are at the appointment to submit all of this information to the title company, the easier this contract's gonna go. I'm going to submit any divorce papers if those are important, because if the property was purchased and there was a divorce that occurred during the time of the ownership of this property, the title company is likely going to request a copy of the final divorce decree, figuring out how that asset was going to be divided by the court's order. Get a hold of that if you are on the contract. Okay? I'm also going to look for contact information for all sellers. Repeat, all sellers. My title company is going to need to talk to these people. Okay? That means I need to give them, that means I'm going to need to give them a copy of all the contact information for my sellers. Do not hold this up. Part of doing this is going to be making sure that you have a solid relationship with your title company. If you are not comfortable with your title company communicating with your sellers, although it's almost guaranteed gonna need to happen, but in some instances I have flat out said, title company, do not talk to the sellers whatsoever. The sellers are extremely volatile. They're extremely difficult to deal with. I've built some rapport with them. It's taken a long time for it to do. Contact me through everything you need to do. If you need to get on a three-way phone call with them, let's get on a three-way phone call. I don't suggest that for every file because you can be the holding point that's slowing this contract down, but you do need to get that title company into contact with your sellers. If you have a solid, strong relationship with your title company, give them free rein. If you're just now starting out with the title company, you might want to monitor that a little closely to make sure that the title company is not doing things outside of the way you would want to conduct your business. So coming back over here, what else might I be submitting? Lien information. This is extremely important. Lien information is going to disclose to the title company who are the lenders. Okay, who else holds liens on this property? What is the contact information for these lien holders? I need all of that information submitted over. Let me go back. I also want to go ahead and put a authorization to release information for the title company. Remember how we had third-party authorizations so that I could talk to the banks? You're also going to want to get essentially a third-party authorization for the title company to talk to the banks. Here in Texas, there is a drafted form, I believe, by the Texas Real Estate Commission. It's called an authorization to release, and that right there gives the title company the right to call the lien holders on the seller's behalf to talk about the payoffs and stuff of that nature. Get all of that up front on your appointment, and then get that submitted to the title company day one. Everything I've been talking about so far is day one, the second you get the contract. Okay? Backing up. Notify the trustee. Okay? Trustee / depending upon if you are in a judicial or a non-judicial state. If you're in a non-judicial state, you're going to have a trustee that is handling the foreclosure on behalf of the bank. I want to notify this trustee of all of the same stuff. So I'm going to submit to them, hey, third-party authorization so I can talk to the trustee. I'm going to submit to them. I'm going to confirm with the trustee what is the sale date. I'm going to send over any bankruptcy paperwork that may be involved. If there is a bankruptcy involved, I will submit that to the trustee also. I'm going to go through, and if I have, for whatever reason, wired money over to get this foreclosure stopped, I'm going to make sure I notify the trustee of this as well. So there's three parties that right now I'm following up with. I'm following up with the bank. I am following up with the title company. I'm following up with the trustee. I'm always following up with the seller. Those 4 people I'm going to be in constant daily communication with, but the trustee is somebody that I'm going to notify in the event that something is going on with the file that I need them to know about. Now, if you're on a judicial state, that's going to be the foreclosing attorney. That's going to be the courts. You may need to update and notify the courts. I have no experience whatsoever in judicial states. I've never done a judicial foreclosure. I've never messed with a judicial foreclosure. All of my experience is non-judicial foreclosures, but a lot of this experience does parlay over into the judicial process. So keep that in mind. Cutting back over here to the slides. Okay. Get the title commitment ASAP. I discuss that with you every time I'm on the phone call with the title company. Day 1, day 2, day 3. Every single day I'm asking them, give me a title commitment. At longest, I would expect 72 hours before I got an abstract of title and a title commitment. I would expect with a good title company that's got my back to have that done in 24 to 48 hours. Okay? Let me go over there to Facebook and see if I got any questions coming in. Let me see. Let's see. Thank you, Chris Monroe, for the intestate successorship spelled out. Let me just double check. Boom. Let's see what else we got here. I'm just double checking for questions. I get to a point where I'm just kind of in my head and I'm going, and I want to make sure that I'm not missing any paperwork from all of y'all guys. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and dive back into it. It looks like all the questions are taken care of. So I'm going to get the title commitment ASAP. I've already kind of touched base on that. Let's cut back over there real quick, and I've got the wrong one on file. There we go. Get the title commitment ASAP. Clear the title. I've kind of already touched base on this. I need the title commitment ASAP to clear the title ASAP. What do I mean by that? When you get the title commitment back, you're going to have Schedule A, B, C, D. Schedule C is going to list any issues that the title company sees with the title, such as homeowner's dead, or there's a mechanics lien, or there's an abstract of judgment, or there's a creditor filed claim against the deceased seller. All of these types of things might show up on Schedule C of the title commitment. Okay? Be clear that the issues and liens that the title has to make sure you have the right to clear them up. It is important to be working with a team. Do not approach this as an island. Do not approach this as, hey, I'm the only person that's messing with this. You need to be working with yourself. And if you're the only person starting out, just understand you are going to be spending a lot of time on this file. But as you progress, build a team of people around you. Like, for instance, a transaction coordinator when you're dealing in a pre-foreclosure heavy business is a must. Somebody that's full-time job is just to communicate with title, trustees, banks, and sellers full-time to make sure that the deal gets closed. There are third-party services out there like Atlas Transaction Coordination Services that have extreme experience in this realm of work. You might want to outsource that to a third-party source like Atlas. But if you're going to do it yourself, just remember, this is a full-time job, and you're going to have to commit to it like it is. All right? Don't forget your local homestead laws. These could help clear out other liens. I talk about this heavily in several different areas of not only the Propelio Academy, but Propelio TV. Your homestead laws in your state may give you rights that many people are not aware of, such as in the state of Texas, Florida as well. We have very strong homestead laws. If you have a homestead in the state of Texas, homestead meaning it is your primary residence and you live there and you claim it as your homestead as your primary point of residence, in the state of Texas, you cannot attach judgments to that home that do not involve that home, such as, you know what, let's say you got into a car accident and someone sues you and they're awarded a judgment and they file that judgment against your property. Guess what? Not allowed to be done in Texas. Guess what? You're behind on child support payments in the state of Texas, and the Texas Attorney General tags your property with a child support lien. Well, guess what? In the state of Texas, you cannot file a child support lien against a homestead. Guess what? Someone else files an abstract of judgment in the county clerks, and they attach it to your primary residence, your homestead. Does not work in the state of Texas. So if you do get an abstract of judgment pulling up on your file, make sure that you know the homestead laws in your state, because those homestead laws could greatly affect how you're clearing title. You can get a lot of things removed from title that other investors might not be aware of. Let's say you've got a first position lien of $70,000, and you've got a bunch of other judgments and stuff that take you from $70,000 principal balance on the mortgage all the way up to $190,000 in payoffs. Well, if you understand your homestead laws, you might be able to get that extra $120,000 in liens just wiped off of the title because you know your state's laws. The reason I know this and the reason I use those particular numbers is because that is a clear file that I closed. I had a $70,000 mortgage and I had $120,000 in additional judgments against that property. I got all 120,000 of them removed without paying them because the law said I could. Your understanding of the law is important, and don't just expect your title company to know these things. You can't expect them to know your business, okay? HMHY Investments asks if I can give them a class on negotiating subordinate liens. I certainly can. That is something I've got quite a bit of experience on, negotiating short sales. So I could probably bring in a special guest, Melody Medley. She is my short sale expert, and we can do another class just on subordinate lien negotiations. I would start all of my subordinate lien negotiations out at $500. All right, let's see. All right, I'm going to keep it moving. I'm going to go on to the next slide. All right, make sure I'm good there, good there. All right, always use the right tailored team for the problem. Running out of time, here are some alternate options that you might be able to explore if you're getting down to the wire. And what I mean by getting down to the wire, it's like you've got 48 hours left before this property goes to auction. The bank has absolutely refused to extend the auction date. You have called and called and called and called. You've done everything I've set up until now. The bank is still refusing to file the to get it. Like I said, always push hard to get the forbearance, also known as a stay of foreclosure, also known as, hey, just give me an extra 30 days. That's all I'm asking for. Give me an extra 30 days to get this file closed. Now, here's an alternative. I absolutely hate this, and I don't consider it to be the answer to every foreclosure file. I have probably closed somewhere around, in the past 12 years, I'm not really, I don't have this tallied up in my head, probably somewhere around 60 to 70 foreclosure files. With those 60 to 70 foreclosure files, I've only had 2 sellers that went into bankruptcy to stop the foreclosure. I said 2, I actually think that was 3. But that's not, so don't take this next one as like a, hey, I got 12 contracts this month. Let's put all 12 of them into some sort of bankruptcy status. I'm not a bankruptcy attorney. I do have relationships built with bankruptcy attorneys that I can rely on in the very last second. And it's a discussion that the homeowner needs to have a serious discussion with the bankruptcy attorney. You know what? Let's say the seller does have $20,000 in equity on their property. Let's say that the seller is in a situation where foreclosure or where bankruptcy might benefit them. I will let that seller have that conversation with this bankruptcy attorney, and through the advice and the direction of the bankruptcy attorney, make the decision as to whether or not the bankruptcy is in their best position. Alternatives to the bankruptcy is potentially filing a temporary restraining order. You know, if you can show the judge that you've got a contract to sell the property, you can show the judge that there's immediate and immense damage going to be caused by the continuation of the foreclosure process, you might be able to get a judge to give you a temporary restraining order postponing this auction and giving you the time that you need to get your contract closed. But make sure that you do have a bankruptcy attorney that you can talk to, that you can refer people to. And in the absolute worst case scenario, you may have the seller contact that bankruptcy attorney and see if it's in their best interest to file bankruptcy, because a bankruptcy filed in the final hour will stop that foreclosure from continuing to move forward. Okay? Other alternatives to possibly getting it closed right then and there, like super, super fast, is this last one. Subject to, or purchase property sub 2 to stop the auction and buy more time. Okay, what do I mean by that one? What do I mean by that one? Because I consider that one to be important. It's not something I would suggest anyone doing that does not have enough experience in subject to and does not have enough experience in the risks of doing this. All right, let me explain it to you this way. I've had this property in title for close to 2 weeks now. With it being in title for close to 2 weeks now, I've already got my abstract of title. I've already seen Schedule C of the title commitment. Looking at all of this, I know for the most part what issues are with the title. If I've already got title, quote unquote, clear, then I know that I have the ability to get this property with a fairly clear title. Now, if I know that the payoff, or not necessarily the payoff, the reinstatement fee is, and I'm going to use a number. I had one property that had $12,000 reinstatement fee. They contacted me on a Thursday night. I got an abstract of title Friday. I went through the process of confirming the heirship successorship over the weekend. Monday, I'm back at title. Property goes to foreclosure on Tuesday. I've got 2 business days to get this deal closed. 5 days in total, 2 business days to get it closed. I get an abstract of title in less than 24 hours. I confirm what's against the title. Throughout the weekend, I make sure that I get the intestate successorship figured out. On Monday morning, I file the affidavits of heirship, transferring ownership to the heirs. I then take ownership from the heirs, and I purchase the property subject to the underlying mortgage on Tuesday morning, 2 hours before the auction goes to town. That is a specific scenario where it's like, you know what? If I have to move extremely fast, I will go ahead and send over the reinstatement amount to get the loan current to stop the foreclosure immediately. And I will do that with some caveats put into place. I'm going to call up the trustee. I'm going to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Trustee, I know that you're taking this property to auction tomorrow morning. I'm just going to let you know right now, I'm wiring over the full reinstatement amount tonight. I'm going to be confirming with the bank that they receive it tomorrow morning. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to call up the bank and I'm going to be like, hey, I just wired it off. Confirm, 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 confirm. Once I know that the bank has received it, I'm now going to have the bank call the trustee and say, stop the foreclosure. I'm going to call the trustee myself. Hey, here's a copy of my wire. I know that you need the bank to tell you that the foreclosure is going to be stopped, but I need the foreclosure stopped. I can tell you right now, when you wire $12,000 out into the middle of the internet and you're trying to get a foreclosure stopped, that can be a scary day. That entire Tuesday, I'm sitting there wondering, sitting on my hands, is like, did it stop? Did it stop? Did it stop? And by the end of the day, I found out, yes, the foreclosure was stopped. Yes, I am the rightful new owner of the property, that the lien stayed in place, and I was able to purchase that property in 2 business days with a pending foreclosure. I ended up making probably around $24,000 on that deal. I don't remember exactly how much it was. It wasn't as much as I was anticipating, but $24,000 inside of a couple of days worth of work is not a bad day. So for those of you that are out there that understand what Subject 2 is a way of taking ownership of that property in a very short period of time without getting the loan cleared, so that way you can buy the time to clear out the loan in the future if you wanted to, or just deal with it, take it down Subject 2 and keep it in your portfolio as a Subject 2 acquisition. Okay, let me see what else we have over here on file. Okay, everything else is looking good. I'm going to keep on going. Moving on to the next step. Okay. What's going to happen? Once I've got it contracted, I've got all my paperwork sent to the title company. I've got all my paperwork sent off to the trustees. I'm talking with the bank. I'm dealing with the bank. I essentially become a concierge for the homeowner. Now, I know we talked a little bit about the homeowner's mindset when we were talking about contracting the property. We talked about how a lot of the homeowners kind of buried their head in the sand, kind of like in an ostrich mentality. I don't like using blanket statements because they're not fair, because it's not fair. This doesn't cover every seller. But the ones that I've personally found, more often than not, whenever they're heading into a foreclosure and they have not resolved it before the foreclosure date, I'm typically dealing with the personality of someone that does not tackle their problems directly. If it's 7, 8, 9 months in on past due payments, I'm more often than not going to be working with a seller that is ignoring their problem. The ignoring of the problem does not change just because you put it under contract. And this is the crappy part about dealing with foreclosures. That is why I say you probably need a transaction coordinator. But what you're going to have to deal with is you're going to have to hold the hand of that seller from the day you contract it to the day you close it to the day you get paid. Because every single day that goes by, you will find that the sellers are likely going to be the biggest thing holding your deal up. You're going to call them up and be like, hey, I need some signatures. Hey, I need a copy of a divorce decree. Hey, I need this signature. I need that signature. And they'll just ignore it. Like, you'll email it to them. They're like, oh, yeah, I got it in my email, but I forgot to print it. I'm out of ink in my printer, and I haven't printed it out. And you will get hella kinds of excuses from these sellers. You will have to be the one to deal with almost everything that seller needs. I see a couple of questions popping up right now. I think I see someone says, can you do a sub 2 when a homeowner has filed bankruptcy? That can be a little bit difficult because you're going to have a bankruptcy trustee and you're going to need the court's involvement for the sale. Let's say, I'm not going to say you can't because I'm sure that somebody else has. I've never personally tried to, but here's what some common sense logic looks at it from. You're going to need the courts to sign off on it. And one of the things that's going to be difficult for the courts to sign off is basically you're saying the homeowner is going to give up ownership of the house, but they're going to keep the lien in their name. The whole reason that we're in bankruptcy court right now is because we're trying to absolve this person of their debt and clear up their bad debt and clear up all these issues. Why would I sign off on the transfer of the ownership of the house and not clearing off the debt? So while it is probably possible to get it done, I'm going to lean towards it's probably a little bit difficult to get done. So don't take my answer as solid gold, because I can't give that to you as an ultimatum, but I'm going to lean towards you probably can, but it's not going to be easy to do. Okay. So let's jump back into the slides real quick. All right. So as a concierge, what are your responsibilities going to be? Essentially, you're an adult babysitter. And I cannot say that any nicer. You are going to basically be babysitting an adult, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do for their own responsibilities. I have found that most often that the people that make it 8, 9, 10 months without making their home payments are often ignoring the situation they're in. They're ignoring their problems, and for whatever reason, that does not stop the second you give them a solution. So I'm going to now have to babysit this person every single day. Some things that I may have to push them to, some things that I may have to assist them with, some things that I might need to do for them is get their home packed. You know, it seems stupid that you would have to do that for them or get a service for them to do. Go out and get them some boxes at U-Haul or the local public storage. You're gonna need to make sure, you know what? You know, it's not uncommon for me to have a conversation with a seller, and like we're like 4 or 5 days away from closing, and that's why I'm making such a big deal out of this. Is I'll call them up and be like, "Hey, how are things going? You got your new place ready to go? You got everything packed? You ready to move?" And their response will be, "Well, I thought you were taking care of that. So you're telling me you haven't found a place to move yet?" "No." "You haven't packed anything yet?" "No." "Well, I thought you were going to let me stay in the house for a little while after you bought it." What made you think that? I felt pretty clear when we purchased the property that I told you point blank that at the date of closing you would have to be moved out. "Well, I wasn't prepared to move out. Can you let me stay a couple more months?" "Hell no." And once you've had that happen to you once or twice, you learn up front, all right, we contracted it. I'm sitting at the homeowner's house. We just put this thing under the contract. After we get off the phone with the bank, guess what conversation number 2 is with that seller? "All right, who are you going to call up to get you moved? Where are you moving to? All right, do you need some boxes? We got the liquor store down the street. We can go to the Sam's Club. We can go get you some boxes. We can go get to the public storage. We need to get you some boxes and get you moved." "What, you don't think you can get this moved yourself?" "Why not? What are you going to need to do to get this done?" You're going to have to hold their hand, and you're going to have to go through this step by step to make sure every single day that they're taking care of their responsibilities. And if they're not taking care of these responsibilities, you're going to have to make this internal decision within your own company of saying, all right, they're not packed. They're not able to move. They don't have some place to go. Am I going to do all of this for them? Am I going to hire a packer? Am I going to hire a moving company? Am I going to spend the $1,500 to $2,000 it's going to take to get these people out of the house? Your internal company decision might have to say, can I spend $1,500, $2,000, and for that receive $30,000 back? You know, internally as a company, that might be a decision you need to make, but that's one I'd suggest you make. And if you don't do it, you might find yourself in a situation where you're ready to close. You've got a homeowner sitting in the house that's not ready to move, and I can promise you, you don't want to close on a house with a pre-foreclosure tenant still living there. Do not do that unless you are extremely educated and prepared for the ramifications of letting that happen. I'm just saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Okay, so cutting back over here, we're going to talk about moving. You're going to have to help them do that. You're going to have to get somebody hired. You're going to have to stay on top of them to make sure that they're doing it themselves. But you have to get these things done. Other things you need to take into consideration. Where are they moving to? You're going to probably have to help them figure out where they're going. Whether that be an apartment, a mobile home, auntie, uncle, sister moving into the backseat of their car. Whatever that is, you may have to keep them in tune with their reality, making sure that they understand what their reality is and that they're moving forward and progressing to the next step of their reality. You have to take care of this for them. Okay? Other things. Be prepared to be on the next episode of Jerry Springer. I cannot say that more seriously, man. Like, I remember one particular property I showed up to. I get a phone call, and while I'm on this phone call, I'm talking with the seller, and they're like, yeah, I got some tenants over there. They haven't been paying, and I'm behind on my payments. My loan balance is right at $70,000. I'm looking at ARV being about 170, 180. It's about an 1,100 square foot house built in the 60s. I'm like, all right, 70 grand, ARV 180, 1,100 square foot home built in the 60s. This is a deal. Like, I don't even need to go look at it. I can tell you I can probably get that home rebuilt and sold for a profit with those spreads. So I'm like, sure. Let's take a look at it. And he's like, all right, are you okay with the tenants being there? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with the tenants being there. I need to take a look at the property, though. Let's take a look at. I show up, and I see a truck parked in the driveway of this house when I pull up. The tailgate's down. The man's sitting on the tailgate. I show up. I walk up to the man. Hi, I'm Daniel Moore. How are you doing today? Doing just fine. And he's like, he's like, I don't necessarily know if it's a good idea for us to go in the house. And I'm like, what you talking about? And I get about what you talking about out of my mouth when somebody comes barreling out the front door of that house. Mother effing, screw this, screw that. And man, the entire world blows up at this house. Within the next 5 to 10 minutes, there are chairs being thrown through the front windows of the house. There are holes being punched in the wall. This home is being destroyed. I go into this chaos, and I'm talking to this lady that is furious, destroying this home. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Fuck you, all right? What's going on here? How can I solve this? Maybe I can put some money in your hand. What? That caught some attention. Calms it down a little bit. All right, what's going on here? I've been paying my rent every single month, and this sorry SOB isn't been paying the mortgage. Blank, 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 blank. My dad's a deadbeat. What you talking about? Your dad's a deadbeat? That's my dad out there. Well, the guy that I talked to on the phone didn't tell me that the tenant was his daughter, and that his daughter had been making the payments, and Daddy had been pocketing the house payments for his gambling problems. And instead of paying the mortgage, he's just been taking those rent payments and putting them in his back pocket. So daughter had every right to be a little bit pissed off. Daughter had every right to be a little upset that she was about to get kicked out of this house. Daughter may or may not have been justified in throwing her chairs through the front windows of this home. But through this conversation, I'm like, well, what if I could say I can give you a little bit of cash for keys? I'll say I'll give you $1,500, $2,000. Put that cash in your back pocket. Leave the property in a well broom swept condition, and you move out. F you, $2,000 ain't crap. Bam, we got some doors getting kicked in. We got more windows getting busted out. Well, what are you needing? What are you needing? What are you needing? All right, $2,000 ain't enough. What do you need? I want 20 grand. All right, well, I can't give you 20 grand. You want me to help you bust out some windows? No. Well, what will you give me? What if I give you $2,500? I can't really give you much more than that. And she's like, I ain't doing it. Well, I'm not giving you any more, so it's your choice. Bust out some windows or put $2,500 in your back pocket right now. All right, I'll put $2,500 in my back pocket, but I need a contract with you right now proving you're going to give me $2,500. I want $2,500 today. If I don't get $2,500 today, I'm busting out some more windows. I'm like, I'm not giving you $2,500 today. I don't own the property yet. I don't have clear title on it yet. These are the types of scenarios you're going to run into. There's been plenty of other scenarios where I've pulled up to a house that was a full-blown meth lab. You've got meth addicts jumping out of second-story windows like they're Superman. You've got it's like I hit a hornet's nest with a baseball bat. There's just crackheads, and I don't say this lightly. It's like you got crackheads swarming out of the house like it's a never-ending train of crackheads. These are the types of things you run into as a real estate investor. When you're coming up into properties that are in pre-foreclosure, it just intensifies. Okay, so keep up with that. I got a comment over here from Donovan Richard. My worst house was in Fort Worth. Crack house where the garage was used for a prostitution ring and all the suspects were there. Fun times. I can bet. I've seen plenty of those houses growing up. So let's keep it going forward. Just understand, the drama gets thick on these properties. The drama gets really thick on these properties. So moving forward, let's see what else we got here on the slides. Just remember, if you don't get this deal closed, you don't get paid. So while it might seem stressful, it might seem like a lot of effort at the point in time you're going through all of this, just remember at the other side of this, you have a $10,000 check, a $15,000, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 check at the other side of this contract. Make certain that you get these homeowners packed up, you get them moved, you get them relocated, you find out where they need to go, you get the house cleared out, you make sure that the windows aren't getting busted out, you make sure that all these things are being taken care of, and you get this deal closed, because if you don't get paid. So moving on to the next stop. It's definitely going to involve constant daily calls. It's never going to end. You're going to be calling the banks, trustees, sellers, title company, all of them, day in, day out. You're going to be calling the movers. You're going to be calling the packers. You're going to be calling the apartments. You're going to be calling everything to make sure that your deal is moving forward, because if you don't, no one else will, and if no one else does, you don't get paid. Don't sit there and bitch and complain at the end of the file if you don't get paid, because it was your responsibility and no one else's. You can't point the finger at anybody other than yourself if the deal does not get closed. Okay? Courier. You may have to go out and pick up files. You might have to go to the title company, grab paperwork. You might have to drive them over to the seller. You might have to pick the seller up and drive them over to the courthouse. You might need to drive them to the other side of the town. You might need to take them out for dinner. You might need to wine and dine them. You might need to date this person for 4 or 5 weeks to make sure that they get their stuff done. I cannot express to you enough how important it is for you to be taking care of this seller, hand-holding, step by step, because if you don't, I don't feel like going over there today just because their printer ran out of ink. I don't feel like going and picking them up some ink. I don't feel like doing that. Well, guess what? You just gave up 50 grand. Don't be that person. Okay? Keep everyone up to date. And the closing process. What's the closing process going to look like at the title company? We're getting close to the end of this course. There's not much left here. So if you do have questions, knock them out and knock them out fast, because I'm tired. It has been a long couple of weeks. I don't think I slept but maybe an hour and a half last night. I am exhausted, and I'm looking forward to moving this forward. So if you don't have questions, great. If you do have questions, great. If you've enjoyed the class up until now, give me some feedback, give me some comments. Daniel, you talk too fast. Daniel, you don't know what you're doing. Or you know what, Daniel, thank you a ton for all the work you did for me today. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you like, what you didn't like, and I'm going to keep this moving forward. Review the final title. I cannot express to you how important that is. Review Schedule A. Make sure that the correct buyer is on title. Make sure that the correct lender is on title. Make sure that the correct seller is on title. Make sure that there's the correct property address on title. Correct legal description. Make sure that all of that is correct. I have not personally had this scenario happen, but I had a good friend of mine that went to title and closed on the property, and after closing on the property realized he bought the wrong house. And it wasn't just like a, oops, let's unwind this type of thing. He literally bought the wrong house. He got the title to it. He got everything to it. He was buying a landlord's property, and everybody signed off on it. He was supposed to be buying a rental property from a landlord, but whenever everything was said and done with, he actually bought the landlord's primary residence for $80,000. The landlord's primary residence was worth $300,000. But when everything's said and closed, he bought the landlord's primary residence. Tell me about a mistake. Now, by all means, that could have went to title as a title issue. But he did what was right. He titled the property back to the seller. He got the correct title to the correct property. But with everything said and done with, he legitimately bought the wrong property and legitimately owned it. It was signed off on. So that's an interesting situation there. Don't put yourself in there. Make sure you're double checking your title commitments. Other things to look at on there is Schedule B. Schedule C, make sure that any encumbrances of title have been removed from Schedule C. And then go through. Take a look at your preliminary HUD. Confirm that your purchase price is accurate. Taxes are being paid by the correct people. Agents' commissions, if there are agents involved, make sure that their commissions are correct and that the correct people are paying them. Make sure that any assignment fees that are supposed to be paid are accurately reflected on the HUD settlement. Make sure that any items paid outside of closing are accurately disclosed on the HUD 1 settlement statement. Any earnest money deposits are being credited to the correct people. Make sure that any non-refundable deposits have been taken into consideration on your HUD 1. Go through and refer to any option fees and make sure that the correct people are being credited for them. Recording fees, escrow fees. Let me give you a really quick word of advice. I've been working with my title companies that I've been working with. My specific escrow officer, she's gone from several different title companies, several different flags. That to be said, I would say probably 90+% of the time, there are errors on every preliminary HUD I've ever received across the board. So if you're depending upon the title company to give you an accurate preliminary HUD, the reason it's called a preliminary HUD is it's your job to review it and make sure it's correct. I'm going to tell you right now that more often than not, I will always find at the very least a small mistake, and it has to be resolved. Sometimes it's a big mistake, like 15 grand. It's like, hey, I'm short 15 grand over here. What's going on? They're like, oh, I missed that. Well, it's your job. If you get all the way to closing and you close on that deal and it funds and you missed it, you're now going to have to deal with a really long, if you're lucky, process of getting your money recouped. So make sure you do your due diligence on the front side, not the back side, and make sure that your preliminary HUD is accurate. Okay? Next thing, sign all the documents. Make sure that the seller comes in first. I always make sure that the seller signs all my documents first across the board. Every transaction I do, well, not every transaction I do, but on these types of transactions, I do get the seller to sign first. I get my buyers to sign second. I sign third. All right. After the seller signs all the documents, buyer signs all the documents, wire funds, or bring a cashier's check. What do I recommend? I 1010% recommend a wire over a cashier's check. Why? If I'm dealing with a pre-foreclosure, a cashier's check can delay the funding of a property by up to 72 hours. That might change depending upon your title company, who you're working with. But if I bring a cashier's check to closing and I've got a foreclosure scheduled in 24 hours and that cashier's check delays my closing by 72, does that sound like it could be a problem? Yes. Make your buyer, if you're assigning this, wire it. If you are the actual buyer yourself, make sure that the money is wired. Do not get a cashier's check involved. Let's get that done. Make sure, remember, that cashier's check can delay you. If you are on a timeline with a foreclosure, do not use that cashier's check. Use a wire. Got a question that came in from Ivory. Let me check that out real quick. On that part, that right there, I've only had to deal with bankruptcies 4 or 5 different occasions where I got them to release, and really it was nothing other than just hounding them, just calling them up every single day and being like, hey, what can we do to get this released? What can we do to get this released? What can we do to get this released? What docs do you carry with you at all times? Deborah, great question. I believe I covered that in chapter 3 of this class. So if you go back through and you Google or you search on YouTube, Propelio foreclosure, you should be able to see a list of all the documents that I recommend having with you on all of your pre-foreclosure files. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Let's see. Next slide, jump over here, moving forward. You may need a remote notary. I cannot count the number of times that I've had sellers just be like, I don't feel like driving over there. That's 45 minutes away. I'm tired. I've ran out of Cheetos. Bullshit. I'll send a remote notary to your house to get it signed. It sounds annoying. It's probably going to cost you $100 to get it done, $150 to get it done, $75 to get it done. Just go ahead and do it because the seller is going to be annoying. Use your remote notary if you have to. Going forward from there, if you've got this deal moved through, the seller's all excited, bust out the testimonial right there, get you a camera out, get your cell phone out and be like, hey, let's do a testimonial real quick. Can you explain to the rest of the world how I have helped you get your foreclosure solved? How I just put $18,000 in your back pocket by stopping your foreclosure? How easy was it to work with me? Did I do what I said I was going to do? How did you like this? Blank, 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 blank. Always get testimonials at all of your closings. I don't care if it's pre-foreclosure or what. Get a testimonial at every closing you can. Put those up on your websites, put those up on your landing pages, bring those with you in your credibility docs, because I always have credibility docs with me so I can show to the seller, hey, I'm not just some fly-by-night wholesaler. I'm a legitimate business. I run myself as a business. Here's my team. Here's who I work with. When you are working with me, you can be guaranteed that you're in good hands. I like to commit to confidence. Confidence gets you a lot of contracts. Just like when you're out dating, confidence will get you a boyfriend or a girlfriend that some people might not have thought you could have got. Well, guess what? Confidence plays a lot in your skills. So confidence works well with sellers. Confidence works with a lot of things in life. Hold your confidence up and keep things going. All right, let's see what's on the next one. Moving forward. Make sure wire is sent and all lien holders are clear. I can't skip this. Just because all the documents have been signed, just because everybody's smiling at closing, does not mean the deal's done. You got to make sure that the wire was sent to the bank. You've got to confirm that the bank received it. And I write this down, highlight it, write it on its own page, underscore it, do whatever you got to do. Make sure that the bank received the wire and that the foreclosure was stopped. There is nothing more depressing than going through all the closing process and the bank not receive the wire on time or at the correct cutoff, and then find yourself in a situation where the bank is still proceeding with the foreclosure, and or the bank didn't notify the trustee in time. You do not stop on this file until the trustee has told you foreclosure stopped. Bank has told you foreclosure stopped. When you've heard those words and you know that that file is cleared, you can go to your favorite local little celebration place, kick back, do what you do, enjoy your time. You've earned it. If you are a foreclosure heavy company and you are doing a lot of files, you might as well anticipate that the end of your month that's coming up on foreclosure day is going to be a disaster piece. In Texas, all foreclosures happen on the first Tuesday of the month. Other states, foreclosures happen Monday through Friday. Other ones only happen once a quarter. In Texas, I can tell you, a foreclosure-heavy investment firm is going to be absolutely dead nuts to the wall on the last week of the month. It's just going to be a circus. Don't try and call them up, be like, hey, you want to go hang out? You want to go to Top Golf? You want to go fishing? Hell no. The last week of the month is an absolute firehouse for any real estate investment firm that is dealing with pre-foreclosures in Texas. So just keep that in mind when you're dealing with pre-foreclosures. It is a time-intensive file, just like when you're dealing with intestate successorship. They are time-intensive files, but those are the reasons why we get paid heavy on these deals. It's because we have to put a lot of work into them. We have a lot of knowledge that we're bringing to the table. We have a lot of experience we're bringing to the table. If it wasn't for that experience and time that we were bringing to the table, we wouldn't get paid like we do. And it's because of these things that we are able to get paid. And I don't feel bad for getting paid for doing what I'm good at. Just make sure that you're out there and you're doing your deals correctly. You're doing them ethically. You're not going out there lying to people. You're not going out there manipulating situations. And if you roll through and you keep your business in line with some solid ethics, you're going to do good in this business. You're going to do well. So keep that in mind. It is now an hour and 17 minutes into this process. I believe that I am done with this slide deck. So if anybody has any questions, if you have any concerns, hit me up with them. I've got about 30 people watching over on YouTube right now, and I've got 13 likes. If y'all wouldn't mind jumping those likes up over there for me, if you got some comments, I'm going to hang around for 12 more minutes. And during those 12 minutes, I'm just going to run my mouth. And if y'all got questions, I'll answer them for you. And I'll do my best to get them answered for you accurately. But I've got 12 more minutes before I call it a day and I go downstairs and enjoy the rest of my night. So let me go see what's going on over on Facebook. Yes, ma'am, Angela Long. Confidence goes a long way. Steve, thank you for the wonderful comments. Clayton, Jocelyn, Lakeisha, all of y'all, thank you very much for all the wonderful, wonderful comments over there. If anybody's wondering, like, where's the rest of the meat and potatoes on foreclosures, remember, this is a 4-part series. In total, this was probably close to a 10-hour long class. So if you're missing out on some details that you're expecting to learn from this particular class, remember, there are 3 more of them available to you out there. Go check those out. And I'm going to open up some questions. Any questions? You're welcome, Lorraine. Lorraine, where are you from? Deborah, Ivory, HMHY, Josh, Sold by Stacy. Where are all y'all from? Donovan, I know you're from Fort Worth. I see you around quite a bit. Everybody out there right now, I've got a lot of people. I want to see where the diversity's at. Where are we at? Where are you at in your foreclosing investing business? Have you never worked a foreclosure? Have you done 100 foreclosures in your life? Where are y'all at? Jason Toledo, how are you doing, man? You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. Michael Buchanan, you're welcome as well. Justin, thanks for the fire information. You're welcome, sir. If anybody out there is watching this right now and you have not experienced the Propelio Academy, the Propelio Academy is exactly what I just did. It is free. It does not cost anything to gain access to. There's close to 300 videos available in the Propelio Academy, ranging in diverse topics from multifamily investing, subject to investing, wraps, notes, lease options, all different subject matter, including mobile home investing and foreclosure investing, all available to you in the Propelio Academy. The only thing you need for the Propelio Academy is an email address. You sign in with an email address, and education like you just received is delivered to you from within the Propelio Academy, 100% free of charge to you. It was not free. I can tell you that for a fact. I had to invest a lot of capital into getting it done, but I've decided to release it to each and every one of y'all because it has changed my life. Real estate changed my life, and if it wasn't for real estate, I don't know where I'd be, but it would certainly not be here. So if I can help any one of y'all get your start in this business and get you moving in the right direction for changing the legacy of your family, I'm glad to do so. So we got San Antonio, Texas, Honolulu, woohoo! We got New York in here, Chino, California. Where else we got? Are there any differences between a residential and commercial pre-foreclosure proceeding? Great question, Ivory. I actually do not truly know. I do have some how would you say that, intuitions. I know that a residential contract has a lot of protections from the SAFE Act, from Dodd-Frank, from the Fair Housing Act, all those wonderful things. They basically protect the residential owner. I am fairly certain that a lot of those protections afforded to homeowners are not afforded to commercial buyers. They are assumed to be a more educated buyer, and a lot of those protections do not get afforded to them. So the foreclosure process, I believe, on commercial assets is a lot faster. Los Angeles in here, Houston, Temple, Texas, Michigan, Southern California. Lorraine, there's absolutely no reason to be embarrassed of that. I too have experienced that as a child. Foreclosure happens to good people. Good people go into foreclosure, and sometimes you can't predict the future, and things happen to good people. So don't let that be embarrassed. Let that be a lesson and an opportunity for you to go through and help other people that have had the same situation as you. Michael Buchanan, thank you, sir. Joshua Logan, Deborah. Good. If anybody in here has ever been in the academy, let everybody else in here know that it's real. It's not a bait and switch program, and that it is some real straight up information. Good. Let me see what else we got going on. Yeah, I do believe there will be a lot of foreclosures coming into the market here very soon. Very soon. Where are we at here? Angela, Steve Ortega, thank you all. Clayton, thank you. Let me see what we got here. Rosa, you got here a little late. This is available for replay, both on Facebook as well as YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Propelio Real Estate, Propelio Foreclosures. You can find all of our videos on foreclosures there on Propelio. Glad you learned a lot, Mira. Very appreciative of that. What's my honest take on Quest IRA? My honest take is I've never used them, but I have used a lot of private lenders from Quest IRA. So since I've never used them from an IRA standpoint, I can give you no honest take. But I can tell you I have worked with and I have gone to a lot of their networking events. I love the fact that Quest puts those networking events on. What that does for me as a real estate investor is allows me to go into a room with a large number of people that have IRAs that they're looking to invest into real estate. So it's kind of like my private money meeting. I'll go to those meetings with my credibility pack, showing people the type of businesses that I do, the type of deals that I do, and I'll explain to those people, hey, here's how I as a real estate investor can provide you value to your IRA by allowing you to place that money into first position liens, second position liens, JV partnerships, whatever they end up being. I find Quest IRA being a great resource for finding capital. Steve Ortega, shout out to the HBHS crew, Charles and Michael. You're welcome, Melinda. Thank you for the shout out. Lakeisha, located in Dallas, good to know. Linwood, Illinois. I love Illinois. I love certain things about Illinois. Josie, I used to underwrite loan mitigation files for Chase and BOA back in 2012, but there's still a lot of information that I'm learning from you, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you, Josie, for dropping that wonderful testimony there. Rosa Ortega, another thank you. Well, everybody, thank you all for tuning in. I don't know how many of y'all are still here, but I have a wonderful family downstairs that I'm missing out on, and I think I'm gonna go down there and give them some of my time before the end of the night. I'm looking through here, see a couple more comments coming in. Lots and lots of info. Great class, and send many others to the class. Thank you, Michael Buchanan. I think I'm done for the day. And I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all for adding those likes over there on YouTube. Thank you for showing the effort on that side. Drop in your final comments. Drop in your final concerns. If you want to watch replays of this, it's available for replay both on YouTube and Facebook. But So I got a comment coming in on YouTube, everybody over there on Facebook. Sold by Stacy says, I use Quest. They have good customer service and lots of education and answers to questions. So I believe I've heard that from a lot of people. So using their feedback, I'm willing to say that Quest has probably done pretty good for a lot of people. You're welcome, Deborah. And can I do a class on IRA investments? Michael Buchanan, have you seen the IRA course in Propelio Academy? It's about 10 or 12 videos long, probably a total of 6 or 7 hours, taught by Quest IRA. And I consider it to be a very informative piece of information. So if you did watch that and there was something you missed, let me know, and I'll see if I can get Quest IRA to fill us in on that. But in the meantime, if you haven't checked it out there in Propelio Academy, Propelio Academy has a solid course on using IRAs to invest in real estate. I think I'm done, everybody. Much love to everyone. I'm going to go downstairs, get me some grub on, and enjoy the rest of my evening. So thank you all. If you haven't seen Propelio.com, please go out there and check it out. Propelio.com is a real estate software service that provides you with nationwide lead lists, 150,000 leads a month. Gives you access to a Driving for Dollars application called Propelio Mobile that will allow you to skip trace your properties, allow you to track your drives on the map. It'll allow you to send direct mail. It'll allow you to do all these wonderful things with Driving for Dollars. It'll give you access to nationwide MLS comps, plus a professional website for your business. So if you've never seen Propelio.com, that's who sponsors these shows. Go check out Propelio.com, 14-day free trial, no credit card required, and a great resource for you and your business. I am out for the day. Y'all have a good one.